I'm John McIntire. Welcome to another edition of City Talk, where we find out, among other things, when it comes to city employees, what do these people do all day? Meet Ernest Rajakone, who is the Deputy Director of the Office of Community Affairs. He does a lot every day. Ernest, welcome to the program.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. So, before we find out what happens in the Office of Community Affairs, where are you from originally? How did you get into this line of work?
Originally from Central Pennsylvania. Came to Pittsburgh to go to undergraduate at Pitt, and just sort of stayed.
And then you worked for some political folks, and you worked at Planned Parenthood, so you had some interesting jobs early on.
Yep, worked on the campaign side of things, worked at Planned Parenthood on the healthcare side of things, and this opportunity opened up in the office and ended up here. But yeah, love Pittsburgh, and it was just a great opportunity to, really serve a place that came to be home.
But you're really serving the public because you meet members of the public almost every day, if not every day, because you're out there holding community meetings.
Yep, absolutely. The Office of Community Affairs, we work with over 95 different community organizations across the city. And as anyone can attest to, every one of our 90 neighborhoods are different. They have their own history, their own stories, their own challenges, their own opportunities. And so it's sort of meeting people where they are, seeing what their needs are, and seeing how we can make government more accessible for them.
Do you feel a lot of frustration that as much as you want to help people, you can't necessarily all help them like the next day?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the nature of government. It is a little bit of a slow grind in terms of getting things done, and sometimes just the nature of the way things are, it takes consistent follow-up to really get something done. But, public is generally very patient. They at least understand that, we're working to try and get things done as soon as possible. It's not a perfect world, but we try and serve the people the best we can.
Are there things that come up more often than others, like consistent requests or demands? Or
really depends on the neighborhood and the type of time of year.
I live on the north side. What are the north siders complaining about?
Depends on the time of year.
Okay.
At least right now, during the winter, it's a lot of stuff about potholes, a lot of stuff about snow removal. We run the Snow Angels program out of the Office of Community Affairs, which helps connect volunteers with elderly and disabled residents.
Yeah, talk about
help.
that. That's a great program.
Yeah.
People who really aren't in physical shape right now necessarily to shovel their
Absolutely.
own lawns.
So through the Snow Angels program, elderly residents, disabled residents, and across the city, they're able to reach out to our office, and what we try and do is we connect them with volunteers in their neighborhood who can help them with snow removal. So it's a lot of difficulty to remove snow during the winter, and can cause some unnecessary hardship. And that demographic may not always necessarily have the financial means to pay for their own snow removal. So
right. So how long has that been going on, and how's it working?
At least it's been 2 years in the Office of Community Affairs. It was going. It's been going on for a few years now. At one point, it was in the county. At one point, it was in the parks, city parks. But right now, last year and this year, it's been the Office of Community Affairs. It's been going well, but we can always use more volunteers.
So snow removal in the winter, people might be complaining about and/or potholes. What are they talking about in the summer?
Summer, we run a program called City Cuts, where we connect elderly residents, disabled residents, and veterans with a grass cutting service called City Cuts. And essentially, we have contractors go out and cut their lawns. But that's a lot of the issues that we'll see during the summer. Issues around vacant land, issues around infrastructure, road repairs, paving. How we can be communicative of that during those months. And
so then you have to communicate with virtually any and all departments in the city to try to get so many different things done from so many different sources.
Yep, whatever's going on in the city, we got to sort of keep a pulse on that. Everything from URA programs around housing to, what neighborhood planning is doing around community groups and registering them, and neighborhood plans, and things that DPW and DOMI are working on in terms of what infrastructure looks like and how that affects everyday people. Basically anything going on in the city, we try and collect that information the best we can and put it out via our social media, put it out via us going to meetings and talking with constituents directly, just any channel we can to make government more accessible, make sure that public knows what's going on.
So people might find out why a certain road is being torn up and when it might be completed through you guys.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they may find out. That information is oftentimes available on the website at pittsburghpa.gov on the DOMI page. But people can follow our social media accounts at OCAPGH on Twitter, facebook.com/OCAPGH. We also have a monthly newsletter that we put out. Newsletter.pittsburghpa.gov is where you'd find that. But we're just constantly putting out information any way that we can.
How effectively have you been able to use social media to spread the various words?
Social media has been pretty effective. Twitter helps, Facebook helps. The newsletter that we just started has been gaining some traction. It's just a nice way to every month sort of just summarize what's going on in the city and get it out there. We also have a Nextdoor account that we run that's citywide. So we can put neighborhood-specific updates.
Another tool of the internet, Nextdoor.
Another tool of the internet, Nextdoor. We're a citywide agency, community affairs, and we can put out neighborhood-specific information that way. We can also put out citywide information that way, and I think we have about 18% of all the households in the city that are on Nextdoor subscribe to the Office of Community Affairs.
So I'm guessing even if sometimes people don't necessarily like what's going on, even if it's only temporary, at least they feel better off for knowing what it's about and when it might run its course.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just try and keep the public informed the best we can. We try and make sure that our services are accessible as possible. Is the public always going to be happy with, what's going on and the decisions being made by the city? Probably not, but at the same time, the public deserves to have a government that's accountable to them and that's, listening to their concerns and responding to their needs.
You must be a good listener. I assume you have to be a good listener to do this job well.
I'd like to think so. So, yeah. Well, I have my constituencies. We'll see what they say.
And how large is the office?
The office is 4 people.
All right, so you've really got a monumental undertaking. That's a lot of work for 4 people with all these neighborhoods and all these community meetings, which I assume are constant.
Yep, just about every day we're at a different community meeting.
And does turnout vary? Sometimes 3 or 4, sometimes a few dozen?
Turnout varies. It depends on the group, depends on the neighborhood, depends on, what might else be going on that week. Really just depends.
What energizes you? What keeps you going? What gives you a sense of satisfaction?
It's the opportunity to serve. I sort of mentioned that, I came from central Pennsylvania, but, Pittsburgh's home. And so it's really nice to just be able to give back to home.
Do you have any idea now that Operations Chief Guy Costa is resigning, who we're going to blame when there's winter and there's snow? Is there a designated person we can look forward to blaming, or is that still being determined?
We'll see who gets the blame. At the end of the day, we are going to miss Chief Costa. He is, a phenomenal asset for the city and has been a phenomenal asset for the city for a very long time.
It's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I'm a big fan of the Chief. But, all things considered, whether it's blame or not, or complaints or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, it's just, it is services that we need to provide, and if the public feel a certain way about how it's being provided, part of our role as government is to take that into account, and see what we can do about better addressing their needs and better providing the service.
Ernest Rajakone, thanks so much for talking to us today, and usually I don't mean this as sincerely, but thanks for listening.
Oh, absolutely.
You're doing
Thank you, John.
Great service by listening to all the residents of the city of Pittsburgh.
I appreciate that.
Night after night. We'll be back with more of City Talk in a moment. Stay with us.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back to City Talk. I remain John McIntire, and we continue to endeavor to answer the question, city workers, what do these people do all day? Say hello to Chris Belasco. He is a project manager in the Department of Innovation and Performance. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
So as a project manager in innovation and performance, do you prefer to innovate or perform?
I am not very technical, and my work is involved in listening to people and talking to them and helping them to do the things that they need to do.
And that's interesting because I'm not very technical either, and we're both in this department in the city.
That's why they put our cubes right near each other.
How do we get these jobs? But you're a project manager, and that can mean different things in different organizations. What does it mean here?
So we have a handful of different projects that are considered to be large enough that they're important to lots of city users. We call them enterprise-wide, which means that they are touching many, many users.
Thousands of people may be involved.
Absolutely, yeah. So one of which is replacing computers that are running a certain Windows operating system, Windows 7, with a new operating system, Windows 10. So we're upgrading their computers as we're replacing them and, providing them with a better tool to do their job.
And city workers need computers to function, as pretty much all workers do today, or at least a large portion, I would think. Is it going to be that complicated to switch over? Because I must have the old system now, and you'll be responsible for moving me over to the new one.
Well, yeah, that's something that we're working with a bunch of the different service tiers in our department to make sure that transition happens smoothly, making things like training materials available, just like thinking about the people who are involved in, what their changes are going to be in their lives, and making sure it works.
But if you're not very technical, how are you useful in that transition?
Isn't that the way to be the most useful, is to ask the same fundamental questions?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you can represent the average human on the street and find out from the technical people what's what.
Yes, indeed.
How do you develop an expertise at that? Do you go to school for that? How to listen to people, or how do you?
No.
Tell me where you're from originally and how you came up.
Oh, great. So I grew up in Ingram, which is just on the other side of the city border next to Sheridan. I spent a lot of time in Sheridan as a kid. My dad taught at Sheridan Public School in Pittsburgh Public. So I grew up, I went to Pitt. I live in Bloomfield.
What'd you major in at Pitt?
I majored in information science, but I did some graduate work there too. So
Information science, so you could have been a technical geek.
Should have
But you
been.
chose not, should have been. What
should
happened?
have been. Some other things caught my interest. I spent some time doing them. Yeah.
And then how do you evolve into project management?
I was managing projects for the university for a while, and
What kinds of projects there?
research projects mostly for its involvement with some projects with the U.S. Agency for International Development. And I was helping that agency, the federal agency, learn about the success and failure of its projects. So we were doing some program evaluation work. Yeah.
Then how'd you end up working for the city?
Well, that position was sort of changing a little bit, and I was looking for a new challenge and became really interested in coming to work for Innovation and Performance because of how it was thinking about solving problems. I knew a couple of people who were involved, and their work was really interesting to me, and I said, well, this would be a great place to sort of engage and work with the city in a way that I would feel really happy at night. So.
And do you in fact feel really happy at night?
Yes.
Every night?
Unquestionably.
Wow. I wish I could get there. Among the things you're also involved in is the app that allows residents to track snow plows and what street they might get to next.
Yeah, so thinking of big projects, one of the things that I'm doing right now is working with the Office of Management and Budget and our primary client department, the Department of Public Works. And what we're doing is we're going through a fleet upgrade, so we're upgrading the technology on each of their snowplow vehicles, right? We're also upgrading the public's plow tracker, right, to improve the quality of the information that's coming out to each of the people who are driving or live here, right? And so one of the things that we're doing for that is actually only providing the information of where the trucks are, when the trucks have plowed, and where the trucks have spread salt.
So it doesn't tell them necessarily where they're going to plow next.
No, we don't. Yeah,
I would think that would be difficult because they might make their decision as they go.
But speaking of that, one of the arms of this project is that we're working with a civil engineering firm to improve the capacity of the fleet to get around town in the most efficient way possible. So we're designing new plow routes to do that.
What are the inefficient ways, if you know what I mean? Tell us.
Well, okay, so for example, one of the plow routes right now is 30 miles long, and the drivers have to return to the salt pile like 3 or 4 times during the route. And a more efficient route would probably involve going out and then returning as they're running out to go get more salt, for example.
Did you come up with that one yourself?
No, it's just one we've been talking about with the organization we're working with to make sure that we have a better handle on the way that the city can better use its assets that it has already.
So are you sort of a jack of all trades, master of none? I shouldn't say that because you're probably a master of project management, but in other words, you have to know a little bit about many, many things?
I think the one thing that helps the most is being interested in many, many things, right? And being able to help the people who are doing those things on a regular basis and listen to them and make it easier for them to do their work.
And how's that going for you so far?
I'm having fun.
Are there, do the wheels of government move slowly sometimes? Does it take a while to maybe longer than you'd like to get things done?
Oh, sure, but I mean, I was used to the wheels of university life and the federal government
Probably
before
the
that.
wheels
So
of
it's-
everything turn slowly
everything
these
was,
days.
but ultimately, one of the things that surprised me, and not in a negative way, is when I came here and I found that people were totally committed to getting something done. They'll put their heads together and just work really hard at it, and be very thoughtful to do it. And that's anybody in any line in any profession. That would be what you would hope to have and hope to work with them on.
So you found more creative, engaged workers in the city than perhaps you anticipated?
I wouldn't want to sell them short. But yeah, they're great. It's fun working with them.
What do you look forward to in the future?
I don't know.
Or does that just depend on what comes up and then you just start all over again?
Well, here in the city, I mean, there will always be a new problem to solve, right? That maybe we're not doing something in the best way we can, and we'd like to find a different way to do something, and maybe that will involve technology, or maybe that will involve listening to people and getting their perspective and how they want to change, innovate what they're doing, right? And it's our job to listen, and so those things, those new exciting things can come along right within the city, right? And if it involves work elsewhere, it would be because of what I had learned here.
Has anybody thrown this challenge at you? How do you plow the bike lanes? The plows are this big, the bike lanes are little. I could just throw that on your office desk and you could just start working on it tomorrow.
As somebody who rides
Oh,
a
do
lot
you? You're a
to
biker?
work,
Okay.
not necessarily when it's really
Right.
nasty out, but maybe they could get me one
Get you a mini plow?
for my bike.
Yes, and then two birds with one stone. Now that's creative thinking. This is what they hired you for.
Hopefully.
And do you have ambitions to be the king of the project managers one day, or where would you like this to go?
I mean, I think that this is the right kind of department for me because the people who I work for, not just the city, the residents that I work for, but my superiors are all oriented in sort of the same way that we, view our other departments as clients that we want to serve, and we want to help them do the work that they want to do. So it would be fun to work in this capacity for some time, or, like I said, if it was somewhere else, it would be because of what I learned here.
Having sat through this, have you thought of any way I could possibly do a better interview with you?
Not yet.
All right. But we can work
we
on
can
that.
shop that. We'll get some Post-its and we'll.
Is that what they call it, shopping it?
Yeah, we'll work it.
Is that the
We'll
technical
workshop
term?
it.
All right. Chris
So far,
Belasco,
so good.
very nice to meet you. Thank you
Thank you,
so much
John.
for coming and doing the program.
What a pleasure.
That is City Talk. We'll see you next time.